The rain in Valebrook always smelled faintly of coal and sorrow. It fell on crooked rooftops and narrow alleys, where the poor huddled beneath broken lanterns, hoping the night would forget their names. Among them moved a girl with pale hair matted by drizzle, a wicker basket hooked over her arm, and a white strip of cloth tied across her eyes. Her name was Eira. She had been blind since the fever took her sight as a child, yet she walked the streets with the calm certainty of someone who had mapped the world through sound and air. The cobblestones beneath her soles told stories in echoes. The wind shifted when strangers drew near. And though she could not see the cruelty of the city, she could feel it, like a cold hand closing around her throat. The bells had not yet struck midnight when the shouting began. "Out of the way, beggar rat!" Eira turned too late. A carriage wheel clipped her hip and sent her sprawling. The bread she carried scattered across the gutter, soaking in rainwater. She scrambled on her knees, hands searching, heart pounding. A boot slammed into her shoulder. Laughter followed. "Blind girl's lost her crumbs," someone jeered. "Maybe she should learn to crawl better." Another kick drove the air from her lungs. The street smelled of iron and wet wool, and cheap wine. Eira bit down on a cry, palms slipping on mud as she tried to stand. Then the laughter died. Footsteps heavier than the rest approached. Measured, deliberate, each one humming faintly against the stones. The air changed. The rain itself seemed to pause, even through her blindness. Eira felt it. The hush that always came before something ancient remembered its power. A man's voice, low and calm. "Enough." Silence. Then nervous snickers. "Who the hell are you two?" The sentence never finished. A single heartbeat later, the sound of flesh striking stone echoed down the alley, and a body crumpled beside her. Eira flinched. "Pick up your man," the voice said again, colder now, "before I decide to keep him." There was a scrape of boots retreating, curses swallowed, and soon, only the rain remained. Eira trembled, unsure if her rescuer was friend or monster. "Please," she whispered. "I meant no trouble." The stranger knelt before her. His presence was a shadow made solid, his scent a mix of iron and cedar. When he spoke again, it was softer, but the kind of softness that could command armies. "They saw weakness," he said. "That always calls the beasts." Her fingers brushed the hem of his cloak, damp but warm, lined with something like velvet. "Thank you, my lord." "I am no lord," he murmured, though the lie sat poorly in his voice. "Can you stand?" "I can." She tried. Pain lanced through her side, and she swayed. He caught her effortlessly, his hand finding the small of her back. His skin was cool, too cool. "You're hurt." "It's nothing. It's something." He lifted her as if she weighed less than the rain. Eira gasped, clutching at his cloak. "Where are you taking me?" "Out of the mud." He carried her through the narrow lanes until the noise of the slums faded into the rhythmic patter of rain against marble. She heard a door open on oiled hinges, felt warmth wrap around her like a cloak. The scent of firewood and wine replaced the stink of the streets. A hearth crackled. Somewhere, a clock ticked like a heartbeat. "Sit," he said, guiding her to a chair. "You're safe here." She hesitated. "May I know who speaks to me?" He was quiet for a moment, as though considering how much truth the night could bear. "Lucien." The name brushed her memory like a half-remembered prayer. "Lucien. I've heard that name in the markets. They say a noble lives near the river with that name, one who never walks by day." He smiled, and she heard it more than saw it. "You believe everything they whisper." "I believe what I feel," she said simply. "And right now, I feel someone watching me closely. You have good instincts." Her hands found the edge of the table. She traced its carved vines, each curve familiar, even in darkness. "Why help me? A blind servant isn't worth a moment's coin to most. Perhaps I dislike seeing cruelty rewarded." "Seeing," she repeated with a faint smile. "That's a word I envy." Lucien's chair creaked as he leaned closer. "You envy sight? Wouldn't you?" "I have seen too much." His tone turned distant. "And none of it has brought peace." They sat in silence then, two ghosts in a room of firelight. Eira listened to the slow beat of his heart, or perhaps the echo of something that had once been a heart. Finally, he spoke again. "When they struck you, I wanted to tear them apart. Because you pity me, because I saw myself in you." She tilted her head. You? I've walked centuries in darkness of another kind, he said quietly. I know what it is to be unseen. The rain softened outside, the world narrowing to the space between their breaths. Lucien, she whispered, are you human? He hesitated, then let out a small, humorless laugh. Not for a very long time, the fire hissed. She felt cold rush across her skin, not from fear but from the sudden, aching certainty that the man before her was both danger and salvation. What are you? She asked. His voice brushed her ear like a confession. A vampire, Eira. Her pulse leapt. Then why bring me here? Why not drink from me like they say your kind do? Because I meant what I said, he answered. I'll be your sight, not your end. For the first time in years, tears burned her eyes. Why me? Because you walk through a world of cruelty and still move gently, he said. And because I forgot what gentleness felt like until I saw you bleed. The words fell between them, heavy as vows. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. If you are to be my sight, then tell me, what do you see now? Lucien looked at her, the fire painting her blindfold gold. A girl who stands in darkness, but refuses to be swallowed by it. Eira smiled faintly. Then, perhaps you see clearer than most. He reached out, fingers hovering near her cheek but never quite touching. Rest now. The night is long, and the city is cruel. As she drifted toward sleep, she thought she heard him whisper something ancient, a promise buried under centuries of regret. I will guard what the world refused to see. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, two kinds of darkness breathed together, unaware that the storm had only just begun. When Eira woke, the fire was still burning. She could tell by the crackle of wood and the way warmth gathered against her face like a tender hand. Someone had changed her torn dress for clean linen, and bandaged the bruises along her ribs. The air held no scent of iron or rot, only pine resin and candle smoke. For a moment she thought she had died. Then she heard the quiet rhythm of footsteps, and knew death would never move with such care. Lucien. He stopped near the window. The sound of his movement, velvet brushing stone, glass clinking softly, was etched into her memory now. She turned her face toward it. You haven't slept, she said. I do not sleep, he answered. Not in the way mortals do. Eira smiled faintly. Then what do you do when the night grows long? I remember, he said after a pause. And sometimes, I regret. Silence stretched between them, filled with things neither dared name. At last she rose, fingers trailing the wall until she found the window ledge. Cool air spilled through the open shutters. It smells different here, she said. Not like the streets. What is this place? My home, Lucien replied. The house of Verayne. They say Verayne is cursed ground. He chuckled quietly. They say many things. Her hands found the windowsill's edge, smooth as river stone. I used to dream of places like this, she said softly. A room without fear. A bed that doesn't listen to footsteps in the hall. Lucien turned from the window, his eyes catching the firelight. You dream even without sight. I see with what's left, she said. Dreams need no eyes. He studied her, this small, fragile mortal who spoke like a poet carved from light. The world had taught him to despise human fragility, to see it as food or folly. But Eira's blindness was not weakness. It was defiance wrapped in calm. Would you like to walk? He asked. Walk? In the gardens. The rain has stopped. The night is kinder there. She hesitated only a moment before nodding. Lucien guided her through corridors vast enough to swallow echoes. Her fingers brushed stone columns, tapestries that whispered of battles long erased, the chill of moonlight slipping through stained glass. She imagined colors she could no longer see. Deep crimson, ocean silver, a blue so dark it could hold secrets. The door opened with a sigh, and the world bloomed with scent. Damp earth, night jasmine, the faintest trace of salt from the river below. Oh, she breathed. It smells alive. Lucien smiled. It is. He watched her step barefoot onto the grass, her face lifted toward the unseen stars. For centuries, his gardens had known only silence and ash. Now, one blind girl's wonder turned them holy again. Tell me what you see, she asked. He stepped beside her. The moon has just risen, he said, voice low. The roses are awake, red as spilled wine. The fountain is catching light like glass. And you, me, she whispered. You're standing where I've stood for 100 years, he said. But you look like something the night would kneel to. Her lips parted, caught between disbelief and something deeper. You speak like a man who misses being alive. He turned away. Perhaps I do. They walked until the sky began to pale. When she stumbled, he steadied her with hands that remembered gentleness only through her. He described each corner of his world, the statues of fallen kings, the old chapel whose bells no longer rang, the river glimmering beyond the wall. It felt almost like peace. Almost. But peace was a fragile thing in Valebrook. When dawn's first light brushed the horizon, Lucien stiffened. His pupils thinned. His jaw tightened. "We must go inside," he said sharply. Eira froze. "Why?" "The sun," he said simply. "It burns what it touches." He led her back through the halls, faster now. She felt the change in him, the calm veneer cracking into urgency. "Lucien," she asked, "what's wrong?" "Not here. Not now." Only when the heavy door sealed behind them did he slow, breathing as though he'd been chased. Eira reached for him, found his sleeve. "You saved me from the streets, yet you fear the dawn." "Every creature has its predator," he said. "Mine is the day." She smiled sadly. "Then we are alike. The world blinds us both." That single line struck something deep in him. He turned, hands cupping her face, his thumb brushing the edge of her blindfold. "You should not speak like that," he whispered. "You make the darkness sound holy." "Maybe it is," she said. "Maybe it's just misunderstood." He laughed softly, but there was ache in it. "Eira, if I told you the truth of what I am, what I've done, you'd run from me. Would you kill me if I did?" "No." "Then tell me." Lucien hesitated. For centuries, no mortal had spoken to him without trembling. Yet this fragile servant, this blind girl, asked for his truth as if it were a favor, not a threat. "I was not always like this," he said at last. "Once I was a man who wanted to save his people. I struck a bargain to end a war. I thought I could control the hunger that came with it. I was wrong." Her fingers found his hand. "You feed on blood." "Yes, and you hate yourself for it," he swallowed. "Every night." "Then perhaps you've suffered enough," she said simply. He stared at her. "You think mercy can erase centuries?" "No," she said. "But it can start with one night." Something inside him broke. He drew her closer, his forehead resting against hers, the faint pulse beneath her skin whispering temptation into his veins. The scent of her fear, her faith, it was unbearable. "I could destroy you," he breathed. "Then do it." Her voice was steady. "But don't lie to yourself about what you want." His hands trembled. "What I want is forbidden." "By whom?" "By the law of my kind." "Then maybe the law needs breaking." The words struck him like sunlight through cloud. He had broken kingdoms for less. But never a rule of his own cursed bloodline. Before he could answer, a sound shattered the fragile silence. The clang of iron at the gate, the bark of voices outside. "Lucien Verayne," a man shouted. "By order of the council, you are summoned to stand judgment." Eira turned her face toward the door. "Who are they?" "The council," Lucien said grimly. "Vampires older than empires. They've sensed me breaking the oath, bringing a human into my home." The pounding grew louder. Eira's hands tightened around his. "Then let me go." He shook his head. "They'll kill you for knowing I exist." "Then what will you do?" Lucien's gaze darkened. "What I should have done long ago."
The doors burst open.
Figures cloaked in black flooded the hall, eyes gleaming crimson. The leader stepped forward, a woman with silver hair and a voice like frost. "Lucien," she said, "you have broken the veil. The penalty is death." Lucien moved between them and Eira. "She is under my protection. She is mortal." "She is mine," he said, and the air itself trembled. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die with her." Eira heard the hiss of drawn steel, the low growl of predators. She felt Lucien's body tense, a storm about to break. "Lucien," she whispered, "please, don't fight them for me." He turned, and though she couldn't see it, she felt his gaze like fire. "You don't understand. I already am." The world exploded into motion. Steel clashing, marble cracking, the roar of power centuries old. Eira dropped to the floor, covering her ears as the night screamed around her. When silence finally returned, it was broken only by the drip of blood and the faint hiss of dying embers. "Lucien?" she whispered. His voice came back to her, ragged but steady. "I'm here." She reached out, her hands finding his. They were cold, colder than before. "What did you do?" "What I had to," he said. "But it's not over. The council will send more." Eira's voice trembled. "Then we have to run." Lucien looked toward the shattered doorway, toward the pale edge of dawn creeping through the clouds. "There's nowhere left to run." He knelt before her, took her hand, and pressed it to his chest. "If they take me, they'll blind you again. Not just your eyes, your soul. They'll erase your memory of this night. Then don't let them." He smiled faintly, tragic and tender. "You forget what I am, little light. I don't get to choose." But Eira only tightened her grip. "Then choose me anyway." The words fell like a blade between heaven and hell. Lucien bowed his head, whispering against her palm. "Then so be it." The fire guttered. The night leaned closer. Somewhere beyond the shattered gates, the council gathered again. And the man who could not die prepared to make his final stand for the girl who could not see. The first scream came with the dawn. Lucien had drawn the shutters closed, but even the cracks of light that broke through the wood seared like blades across his skin. He could smell his own burning flesh, feel it blistering beneath the collar of his shirt. Still, he did not move. Eira's trembling hand clutched the fabric of his cloak. "Lucien," she whispered, "you can't fight the sun." "I can delay it," he murmured, voice low and raw. "Long enough for you to escape." "Escape where?" "There's no world that wants a blind servant with a vampire's mark." He smiled, faint and broken. "Then I'll build one for you." Outside, the council's voices rose like thunder. Doors shattered. Marble cracked. They were coming, an army of centuries, their hunger disguised as justice. Lucien rose, pulling Eira to her feet. "Listen to me," he said. "Beyond the eastern wing, there's a tunnel that leads to the river. Follow the sound of water. Don't stop until the air tastes of salt. And you." He brushed a lock of hair from her face. "I'll follow when the sun falls again." "You're lying." He hesitated. She felt it. The silence that followed, truth too heavy to speak. "Lucien," she said softly, "you promised to be my sight. Don't break your word now." His throat tightened. "If I could see a future without your suffering, I would trade eternity for it." "Then show me what you see," she whispered, pressing his hand to her cheek. He closed his eyes. In that moment, visions spilled through him, her laughter echoing through halls that had known only sorrow, her fingers tracing the edges of his world, her voice calling his name long after his had turned to dust. "I see you," he said hoarsely. "I see you standing in the light, then let me see you in it too." Before he could answer, the gates burst open. The council entered like a storm. The woman with silver hair, High Mistress Corvell, raised her staff, its tip glowing crimson. "Lucien Verayne," she declared, "you have forsaken the ancient law. You have chosen the mortal over the immortal. Do you deny it?" Lucien straightened. "No." Eira's grip tightened around his arm. "Don't." But he did not flinch. His eyes glowed faintly gold in the half-dark, the mark of his lineage awakening. "If loving her is a crime," he said, "then I am guilty beyond redemption." Corvell's voice rang cold. "Then die with her." Lucien moved faster than sound. In one breath, he pulled Eira behind him. In the next, his power erupted like a shattering cathedral bell. The air itself warped. The walls bent. Torches flared blue. Shadows fled the floor as if afraid. For a moment Eira felt everything. The tremor of the ground, the wind tearing at her hair, the pull of something ancient and furious. Then silence. When she dared to move, Lucien stood before the council. His cloak in tatters, blood seeping from his palms. Corvell's guards lay scattered across the hall, motionless. "You would burn your soul for her?" Corvell asked, stepping forward. Lucien's voice was quiet now. "It was never mine to keep." The High Mistress lifted her staff. "Then I will take hers in your place." Eira felt it before she heard it, a rush of cold air, the scent of iron, the flicker of something reaching for her chest. She gasped as light burst behind her eyes. Real light, not imagined, not remembered. For the first time in years she saw. The hall was drenched in crimson. Lucien stood between her and the council, his body a barrier of burning silver. His eyes met hers, truly met hers, and she cried out in shock and awe. "Lucien." She breathed. "I can see you." He smiled through the pain, blood on his lips. "Then my promise is kept." The staff's glow faded. Corvel's expression wavered. Not anger now, but fear. "What have you done?" Lucien's voice echoed, both thunder and prayer. "I've given her my sight." Eira stumbled toward him, vision swimming, the world too bright, too vast. "No, take it back. You'll—" He caught her before she fell. His fingers brushed her cheek, leaving smears of red. "Don't cry," he whispered. "The night is jealous when the sun shines in your eyes." "But you—" "I'm already fading, Eira." She clung to him, shaking her head. "No, you said you'd follow me when the sun falls." "And I will," he said, smiling faintly. "Just not in this form." The hall glowed brighter. Lucien's body trembled, the edges of him unraveling like smoke in wind. His voice softened. "Close your eyes, my light. Remember the sound of my footsteps. That's where I'll be." She refused to look away, even as his outline turned to silver dust. "Lucien, I'm here," he whispered. "Always." Then he was gone. Only silence remained. Silence and the echo of wings that were never meant to fly in daylight. Eira fell to her knees, tears blurring her newborn sight. Around her, the council withdrew, faces pale with disbelief. Corvel dropped her staff, voice trembling. He gave his immortality away for a human. Eira rose, her voice shaking but clear. Not for a human, for love. She turned from them, her bare feet leaving prints of blood and ash across the marble floor. Outside, the world waited, green and gold and impossibly bright. The river glimmered beyond the walls, its surface catching sunlight like mirrors. She walked toward it, the echo of Lucien's words still in her ears. Follow the sound of water. At the bank, she knelt. The reflection that met her eyes was hers, and not. In the shimmer of the current, she saw a figure behind her, tall and still, his eyes golden as dusk. "You kept your word," she whispered. The wind carried the faintest reply. "And you kept mine." She smiled, tears falling into the river. "Then we are both free." The water rippled, and for one heartbeat, she felt his hand brush hers again, cool, familiar, infinite. Some say that night, when the moon rose over Valebrook, the old house by the river burned itself to ash. Some say the roses bloomed redder than ever, but those who walk the eastern garden swear that when the wind shifts just right, you can still hear a man's voice saying gently, "I'll be her sight." And perhaps that is what love truly is. Not rescue, not possession, but choosing to see someone fully, even when the world is blind to them. If you were in Eira's place, would you have wanted him to save you, or to let you go? And if you were Lucien, could you have given up forever just to let someone finally see? Tell me what you think, dear listener. Love like theirs doesn't fade, it only changes its shape.